Hello, I'm Justine Willis-Toms. Welcome to the New Dimensions Cafe. Today I'm hosting Diana Badger, author of Dance of the Archetypes, How Astrology Informs Our Lives and Connects Us to the Earth. Welcome, Diana, to the New Dimensions Cafe.
Thank you, Justine. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you.
Oh, thank you. It's my honor as well. So let's talk about astrology. Rather than using it as predictive, you use it as participatory, as a system that is mirrored in the seasons and the land beneath our feet. So please help us understand the vibrant relationship between astrology and ecology.
Great question. As our indigenous forebears have long known for many centuries, we are intimately of a part between the cosmos above us and the earth here, of which we are made. And that it somehow, through the divorcing of the rational mind from the body, we've gotten this concept that the stars are out there and that astrologers can sort of read them and talk about their aspects with each other and get lost in jargon. And then there are those of us down here who like to tend our gardens and listen to the earth, but the twain don't meet. And so my strong impulse is to just bring us back into the right ordering where we listen to the signs and symbols of both earth and sky, and we see how they show up together. And the astrology signs can be considered to be the weather of our impulsive lives, or what's showing up in our inboxes, what is going through our psyches, just as the earth, the wind and the rain and the heat is another type of weather that we're needing to work with. And that cyclically, especially here in the Northern Hemisphere, where the first sign in the Zodiac, Aries, coincides with the spring equinox, the time of rebirth, and Aries is about rebirth. The two are intimately linked, just the way Pisces, the last sign, which is sort of the end of winter, is a sign of the ending of a cycle, both inside one's life. It's a time of disassembling and collapse, which is what we've been going through in the last few years as a culture, as a political world view. We've been going through this end of a cycle, Pisces energy, and now we're starting it again with Aries as we're feeling it in the spring. And so the spring helps us feel that aliveness. It helps us feel into the archetype, just the way each archetype helps us in an embodied way know what it is.
I know that you are a gardener and you tend your own garden and you do many wonderful walks and you take photographs of it and then you write about it and you journal about it and then you share all of that with us. It's so wonderful. Your photographs are wonderful and your book is infused with these photographs. And so tell me, how does gardening relate to astrology?
Oh, interesting question. Well, I guess I think of the four elements: earth, air, fire, water. Gardening brings us into company with those elements. So, for instance, water, the plants need water in order to be nourished. And there are dry periods in our climate where we don't have enough water. And I feel that that's connected to dry periods in our psyches, which can be connected to certain archetypal energies, such as, Neptune ruling over Pisces, which is a time and a season of loss, and the way Scorpio is a time and a season of loss. And Scorpio, for instance, comes at the end of the harvest when the crops have already been harvested and there's no more joy on the planet, so that they mirror each other. So likewise, gardening to me keeps me in sync with the astrological. For instance, in the winter, I'm less outside, I'm more inside, I'm more in my internal life, and I'm kind of in a hibernating mood and more into the realm of ideas. And then when spring comes, I'm out, I'm physical. The Aries energy calls me into creative impulses, to my instinctual self, to be in the sun, to tend to the plants, to listen to the plants. Another way to think about the element is the element of air, where the birds occupy the air. The birds symbolize aspiration, and aspiration is a high picture view, like transcending the ordinary level, getting to a higher peak and looking down. And that can, when we connect with the birds, we're connecting with a part of ourself that is broad seeing, which one could say is Aquarius, the last of the air signs. Or the earth sign Virgo loves health and healing, so loves to harvest the herbs and to make tea. Like I like lemon balm tea and mint tea. And oftentimes when I'm just cleaning up the garden, I harvest because of the pruning, and then I get to come in and bring beauty into the house and nourish myself. And because the Virgo archetype is, geared towards creating order, it's basically in sync with what the earth is asking: clean up the mess. But then it gets to bring it inside and make healthy things for one's own body.
I think I remember reading in your book that when you travel, you sometimes eat the herbs or the weeds or something from a different place and it connects you to that place.
Yeah, I learned it at a herbal conference here in Sonoma County many years ago, that it's a very good grounding mechanism to eat the weeds that we recognize that grow, such as plantain or wild lettuce or wild radish, that are not harmful. And I remember doing that when I was in Glasgow before a trip to the Outer Hebrides that I took in 2022. I was on my way to an art gallery, and there along the side of the road was this abundance of healthy weeds that I ate. It's meant to connect us to the land. The practice helps ground our bodies and help us know that we're here among kin. I mean, I find it fascinating in various travels that the plants are not strangers. We see the same plants in different places. I have a plant viburnum, of which there are many types, growing right outside my window, that was growing alongside these canals of water by the Alhambra in Granada. And I thought, oh, there's viburnum. So I felt connected because there it was. And here's my little viburnum.
So I'm wondering, what advice do you have when, let's say, we have our chart done?
Well, there are many, many different types of astrologers, just like many types of doctors or therapists. My way of looking at it is for the evolutional signature, which I look at a few different features, like the north and south nodes of the moon, which could sound Greek. And if it's Greek, just put it on the shelf, or Pluto. These show our soul's intent, what we've come from, where our skills and gifts are, what we may have overemphasized, but what we can always rely on as a toolkit, and what we're heading into and what our challenges are. So to me, I really think it's important to go deeper within astrology and not just do a one-off, you are this, you are that, this is going to happen, but instead deepen through dialogue into understanding what are the signatures right now that are calling your attention. What are your challenges? What are the gifts that you have that can help deal with this? What are the recurring cycles that are coming back up now for a different type of manifestation? So I really use it for growth and transformation and self-understanding.
Which reminds me of the different planets in the zodiac. And there are the inner planets, there are the middle planets, and the outer planets.
Okay. So the sun and the moon, which you didn't mention, are the luminaries. And then the inner planets, Mars, Mercury, and Venus, travel fairly close to the sun. They travel fairly quickly compared to the others. They inform our personal nature, like Mercury is how we communicate, and Mars is how we take action or refrain from taking action, and Venus is how we are socially, how we engage in relationships. Then the middle planets, which I also sometimes call the gateway planets, those are Jupiter and Saturn, and they show how we interface with cultural life. So Jupiter is meaning making and systems of understanding, philosophy or publishing or academia. They're sort of structures for us as individuals to connect with the greater whole of society, often in the vein of learning or promoting is a Jupiter theme. Saturn is also a like interface gateway society planet that's about the structures, organizations, and systems that are created, such as a government or a corporation or a system of managing the water company or something like that. Anything that sort of manages life that requires responsibility, discipline, and stability. That's traditionally the Saturnian influence, like helps things get grounded and stable in theory. I mean, we've been going through a lot of shifts where the what's grounded and stable is disintegrating right now based on the current, reflected by the current astrology. But then the outer planets, also called transpersonals, are Neptune, Pluto, and Uranus. And those inform our transformation and our genius and our potential for connection to oneness. The Neptune part is the latter, and Pluto is the transformation, and Uranus is our potential higher mind, our genius. They're all signatures that feel very much, well, Pluto is sort of from underneath, a deep power from underneath, and Neptune and Uranus are high above, coming in from other realms.
That makes me think of our Saturn return because it's one of the slower planets.
It's fast compared to the three outer planets, but it is much slower than the inner planets. So it takes 2.5 years to go through a sign or through a house, which is an area of life in the wheel, which has 12 little pie slice areas in it, which is called a house. So Saturn takes 28 years or 29 and a half years to return to its original place when we were born. And it is a very important point when people often get astrology readings. And my own daughter is approaching that age, and she's been having me talk to her friends about their Saturn return. It's a time of resetting our goals and our focus, because Saturn is about structures and intentions. In order to build anything, we start with goals and intentions. So it's a time to look at, what have I been sort of secretly hoping I might do in my life, but afraid to do? Like, what do I maybe want to prioritize rather than just sort of allow my life to unfold as it will? Do I maybe want to go to graduate school, which would be a possible, or sometimes people intuitively know and they're already in graduate school when their Saturn return, because it is an age time when we might be 28 or 29. But then when they actually get to the return, it's time to step out and see how what's next. How am I going to manifest that? Where am I going to move? Am I going to get married? That, like, all those kinds of bridges in our life. But then the Saturn return comes again later, another 29 years later, in midlife. And that's when we get to reconsider, okay, what are our next leanings? I mean, for me, my Saturn return came, though, right at the heart of the onset of the pandemic. And there was so much else intensity going on at that time. And it wasn't a time when one strikes out into new things. It was like, who are we now? How do we live? Who are our people online or and neighbors? So I feel like my Saturn return kind of came and went without me setting intentions about it. But it's so I wouldn't say that it's an orthodoxy that everybody should look at their Saturn return, but it's something just like Mercury retrograde that a lot of people know about in terms of astrology, and it can be important and informative for some.
So it could be a time that there's energy in the cosmos, so to speak, to help us reconsider our life path. And so there's kind of possibly some help if one really subscribes to it.
Yeah, and right now, for anyone approaching a Saturn return now, approaching ages 30 or 60, Saturn is in Aries with Neptune, so that it's a very ripe moment for setting these Aries goals of like new types of creative actions or new identities that we might step into, because Aries informs identity, and it's along with the planet Neptune in the sky right now. Saturn is, which calls in the transcendent feminine into the whole project of service or compassion or creativity. So there's always a richness of archetypes in weaving together, or often is, especially now.
So I hope that our listeners can feel the breath of wisdom that you have to share in bringing the heavens down to earth, so to speak, and helping us out with this very complex sort of pantheon of energies called astrology, and with their houses and with their aspects and with all their modalities and everything. It can be very confusing, but you have helped us just to sort of cut through and bring it to earth. I thank you for that, Diana. Thank you very much. Now, the last thing is a quote that inspires you.
This is by the British author Sharon Blackie, who wrote If Women Rose Rooted. Should I describe who she is? Or
Yeah, maybe give a little bit of
she's
intro of who she is.
She's a psychologist and a mythologist. In her book, If Women Rose Rooted, she describes myth and storytale as they inform the Celtic cultures. And she weaves it together with the theme of the rise of the feminine and with psychology. And she interviews other interesting women. That, anyway, that's too many details. But so this is from her book, If Women Rose Rooted. Women are spinners and weavers. We are the ones who spin the threads and weave them into meaning and pattern. Like silkworms, we create those threads out of our own substance, pulling the strong, fine fibers out of our own hearts and wombs. It's time to make some new threads, time to strengthen the frayed, wild edges of our being, and then weave ourselves back into the fabric of our culture. Once we knew the patterns for weaving the world, we can piece them together again. We can remake the world. This is what women do. This is our work. And I find a lot of meaning in this because I very much subscribe to the fact that the feminine, or the rise of women in our authentic power, is needed if the world is to be reconstituted or protected from full collapse. That many spiritual teachers have pointed to this need for the rise of the feminine. And I love that she talks about women being spinners and weavers. I myself was a textile designer earlier in my life, and I consider that my book is a big weaving of many dimensions of life. Speaking of new dimensions, the inner, the outer, the mundane, the holy, all of it of a piece. And so this metaphor of a textile is very profound for me. And she talks about the fine fibers of our own hearts and wombs, equally so beautiful. Our body and our heart, like the feminine is embodied. It's one of the things that our whole culture has not encouraged in us. And so learning to weave ourselves back into our bodies, back into our hearts, back into the land around us, back into our instinctual selves and intuitive knowing, to me, is a lot what I write about. It's a theme very strong for me in my book.
Whoa, thank you so much. Thank you. I've been speaking with Diana Badger, author of Dance of the Archetypes: How Astrology Informs Our Lives and Connects Us to the Earth. And if you want to know more about her work, you can go to her website, Diana Badger, and that's spelled like the animal badger, dianabadger.com. Or you can get there on the New Dimensions website, newdimensions.org, where you'll find over 2,000 programs in its archive. I'm Justine Willis-Toms. I want to thank you for joining us at the New Dimensions Cafe, and I invite you, please do join us again.